Are you an entrepreneur, the owner, creator, founder, co-founder, starter of a small business, and you are feeling like you are completely frustrated with maybe the financial position of your company, maybe the profitability of your company? I want you to really pay attention to today's video as well as the series that's coming up, because I want to talk to you guys about a book that can literally change and transform your mindset and your thinking around finances in your business. So that way you can treat it in such a way where it's profitable, not only for you, but for your business long term. So if you're ready, let's go. The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melone. Hi, everyone. It's Sophia Melone, the Debt Demolisher, here to bring you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you manage your financial baggage the right way. I'm super excited about today's video, and here's why. I actually got a request from one of the supporters of this YouTube channel who really wanted me to talk a little bit about profitability in your business, profitability as an entrepreneur. What are some of the back office things that we really need to know to set our business up profitably and in the best manner possible? Now, when I got this email, I was completely excited to read it, excited to see it, excited to even be asked to speak on this subject, at least on my public platform. Now, I normally do deliver trainings related to business endeavors and business setups and back office support when it relates to accounting endeavors and things of that nature. I do facilitate those trainings in a private setting. And so what I want to do today, in order to still be able to provide the level of insight or provide some form of conversation around the question that I received, I want to be able to speak to it in a way where you can be able to access the tool and read it for yourself, but at the same time, I can speak to it a little bit. So the tool that I'm talking about is a book called Profit First. If you have watched this video, if you have watched this channel and you've been watching some of the releases that I've been putting out, I did mention that I was in the process of rereading this book. And I found that it's so profound to be able to pick it up and say, oh my gosh, there were some things that I haven't even applied yet. So being asked to come back and take a look at this, I just thought that it was very profound, and I feel like it's very enlightening. And one of the things that I want to do is I want to turn the conversation around this book into another series. So y'all know how I do. I like to teach, I like to facilitate, and I like to break it out in pieces and in days so that you can digest it, so that you can apply it, so that you can take the piece that you need, because everything in this step may not necessarily apply to you, but it's very important that it's able to be received and digested in a bite-sized manner, because when we try to lump everything together all into one, it's going to cause us to not do anything in some cases. I'm not saying that for everybody, but in some cases, if it's just too much content, it's too much content. I want you to be able to receive this information in a way that you can go and pick up the book for yourself, read it for yourself, and then maybe use this video as something that you can come back to say, that's what that concept meant in the book. That is an example of what that looks like. Now, this book is very thorough, you guys. This is the book right now, Profit First, by Michael. I can't pronounce his last name. Don't judge me. But he is an author of several books, and his most popular one is this one, Profit First. There's so many gems in this book around how to structure your finances and structure your profitability and your cash flow approach when it comes to your business. Now, I'm going to say this. Me being an accountant, that's my trade. That's what I went to school for. That's what I do. I've been a numbers person since I was a kid. I've always wanted to be an accountant since my mama was taking me to her job when it was take your daughter to work day. I used to sit with the accountants, sit at their desk, watch them use the ledgers. You know, they ain't have all the computers and stuff back then. They had like the paper ledgers. And I would sit down at the desk with I remember one of the guys' name, his name was Hassan. That's crazy. I was like 8 years old and I still remember this man's name. His name was Hassan, and he would sit with me and he would talk to me about being an accountant and about what he does. He would show me how he does the ledgers, and I would just be so into it. I was always a numbers person. So, by the time I got to high school, I was like, I'm going to school for accounting. And that's what I did. I got my bachelor's degree in accountancy. I went and got my MBA in financial management, and I've been working in the accounting field since even before I finished school, because I had internships and all of that kind of stuff. So I've been always working in accounting. But the interesting piece about this book, and the reason why I'm sharing a little bit about my background, is because the concept that he's talking about in this book that we should refrain from, which is sales minus expenses equals profit. This is the concept that I learned in school, like how to calculate your net profit, or how to calculate your income for financial statement purposes. So that's what I've learned in school. You take the sales and the revenue from a company, you subtract the expenses that the company had to pay, and then whatever the profit was left, that was the profit. If it was a net loss or if it was a net gain. Most of the time, depending on how your company was set up, some companies operate in a net loss, but hypothetically, theoretically, if you're a business owner, you want to be able to produce some profits. You want to have a profitable company. So when I'm reading this book and I'm thinking about the concept that he talks about, which is taking your profit first, it's almost like the same concept that I shared about how I flip the order and how I pay myself. So before, I used to take the money that I earned, I would pay everybody else, and then whatever was left over, then if there was any left over, was mine to keep. That's the same approach that I took, or the same approach that I learned in school in accounting. Sales or income minus expenses equals your profit. That's the same approach that I had in my personal finances, y'all. I got my income, I paid everything, paid everybody else, and if there was anything left, then I paid me. Now that I understand, and not even thinking about this concept, but I was doing this before when I realized that it wasn't working out, me paying me last, because I would use up all of the money. So I had to flip the order whereby I would pay God, I pay me, and then I pay everyone else. So reading this book, The Profit First, actually has that same concept where you are paying you first as a business owner, and then you back out the rest of the expenses, and then you use whatever is left to pay the expenses. So what I want to do in this series is, number one, talk about at least one key point within each chapter of the book. Again, like I've said before, I'm not going to regurgitate every single thing out of this book. I'm not going to speak and share every little aspect of the book, because again, it's the author's creation. It's the author's intellectual property. And I just want to encourage you guys to pick up the book and read it if it's something that you want to learn more about. And then you can leverage this video to help tie the concept to what you're reading in the book once you pick it up for yourself. So let's start with the introduction. Now, of course, when I was reading the introduction, I'm a highlighter. I like to mark things. I like to fold pages. I like to put asterisks and stars and all of that stuff inside of my books as I'm reading them. And when I was reading the introduction, of course, there were a lot of things that kind of stuck out to me. Number one, he talked about mentioning the statistics in terms of, okay, well, how many small businesses are out here right now? Now, of course, this book is old, and so the statistics or the references that are in here right now isn't necessarily up to date. So what I did was I said, okay, let me see how many businesses are actually incorporated and created in the United States. So when I look at the stats, according to the Small Business Administration, it says that there are 31.7 million small businesses. And when you think about small businesses, there is a definition of what a small business is. So a small business is an entity, a business structure, a business setup that earns $25 million or less in revenue. So if you are an entrepreneur, I don't care if you incorporated a business, that means that you are a small business if your earnings and your revenues are less than $25 million. That's a lot of coins. 25 million is a lot of coins. So when you think about that, and you think about the statistics that's on SBA.gov, where it says that there is 31.7 million small businesses as of March 2021, that lets you know that there are a lot of businesses that aren't earning 25 million and up. And 25 million is a lot of coins. So you have to think about the number of businesses that are operating right now and what is the structure that they are following. Now, what I'm learning, and because I'm an accountant and I'm so used to operating in this standard fashion, it's what I do naturally when I think of business. And now this book is challenging me to flip the concept and flip the order and apply the same thing that I do in my personal finances somewhat to my business side. Now, this is going to be I don't want to say challenging, but this is going to be something that is really going to take intention for me to do, because like I said, on my 9-to-5 job, this is what I do without thinking. And so if I'm thinking on a business perspective and I'm trying to apply this to my personal business, that same business mindset that I have, or that same business approach that I have in accounting, automatically tends to transition over here. Now, I do still want to be able to be in compliance with generally accepted accounting principles and all of that stuff. But when I'm thinking about the net profit side, when I'm thinking about how I want my business to be profitable, because I'm going to be frank and honest with y'all, my businesses are not profitable right now. I'm just going to be real. I'm keeping it all the way 100. I've been funding my businesses. And this is another thing that really struck home for me as I was reading through the introduction. There was a person who he referenced in the book, and I'm going to read it verbatim just so that I can be able to share directly what it says and quote it directly from the book and then elaborate after the fact. But it said, for 10 years, Debbie had put her soul into her business, giving it everything she had, sacrificing her personal life in order to give her business life. And yet she didn't have a dime or a successful business to show for it. How many times have we started a project, started a business, started an endeavor, and we throw all of this money into it, or we throw all of this credit into it, or we throw all of these loans into it with the notion or with the hope that it's going to return and produce significant profits for us, and it doesn't. And sometimes it takes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, even 10 years to be able to see some form of profitability within the company. And we have a passion for it so much because it's our babies, because it's something that we are passionate about, and because it's something that we created. We will continue to fund it and push it and add on more debt and add on more responsibility, add on more liabilities, without thinking about how can we do this in a way where we can position it to be profitable. And not only that, how can we face the naked truth about where we stand in our business? I've always said with you guys, I'm an open book. I have no problem with being transparent, sharing anything about where I've been, what I've done, what I've succeeded in, what I have not succeeded in, and what I am actively working to overcome and grow through. And that's a part of me coming on this platform to teach and to educate and to share, because I know that you learn through my story. I know that you learn through my failures. I know that you learn through my pitfalls. And if I'm not willing to show it, if I'm not willing to share it, if I'm not willing to tell you what resources I'm using to help get me out of it, then how is it going to serve you? How is it going to help you? How is it going to help the next man? We got to think about how are we going to use the information that's available to us, use the story that we have within ourselves to make it better for the next one, not just about us. We don't want to be selfish. We don't want to be only concerned about our own endeavors. You got to think bigger than you sometimes. I know I'm probably going off on a tangent, but Lord, it's on my spirit, so I'm saying it. And this even reminds me of another piece that the author himself said in the introduction as he was talking about himself. And I'm going to read it. It says, the Young SBA Entrepreneur of the Year award recipient who is changing the world, who is lauded as the member of the next generation of genius, who is destined to be the cover of Fortune magazine because of his business acumen, is taking out bank loan after bank loan and racking up credit card debt to cover payroll behind the scenes. Behind the scenes. So what does this demonstrate? This demonstrates that you may be looking high profile, you may be looking glorified, you may be looking like the genius on paper, you may be getting all of these features, you may be having all of this visibility, but at the end of the day, and people think that you're way up here and that you got it all going on, but behind the scenes, your business is a hot mess. Behind the scenes, you don't have enough profit. Behind the scenes, you're not raking in any profit. You may have millions of dollars in revenues, but you may have millions of dollars in expenses. So where is your profitability? Yes, granted, you may be bringing in the revenue, but if your expenses exceed your revenue, then you have no profit. So what does that make you look like from a credibility standpoint, or even from the face of the surface? A lot of times we look at where people are and what they say that they've earned. But if you haven't seen the numbers, if you haven't looked at them financial statements, if you haven't seen the bank account balance, then you really can't believe it. Come on, somebody. You really can't believe it. And I'm not going to be the one to sit up here and tell you that my company is grossing millions of dollars in revenues, because it is not. My companies are not. And the reason why I am really wanting to speak through this thing, because I feel like if I'm educating you throughout this process, I'm going to be able to transform my own stuff with my business finances to get it all the way together. Because we have to realize if something has not worked in the past, then we may want to do something different so that we can find out what can work and what will work. And so because this method is proven, because this method has been able to not only produce results for others, I don't see why I shouldn't try it. And honestly, it makes sense because I've actually applied it, but on the personal side, and it works for me. So now it's just a matter of saying, okay, how can I shift this? And how can I change my mindset just a little bit, because I've been so accustomed to doing it this way. After being an accountant for over 15 years, I'm so used to doing it this way. How can I shift when it comes to my business to do it in the opposite, by making my business profitable, taking the business profits first, and then paying everyone else? Because you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of a statement that I read in the book as well that talked about like how we're always loyal to formulas. And I want to ask you the question, what formula have you been loyal to that really isn't serving you? What financial formula have you been unconsciously following because someone else told you to follow it? What have you been able to test for yourself? What have you been able to research and find that may be a different formula that can work for you? Sometimes we can be so loyal to what we know until we are introduced to something different. So even when you are introduced to something different, you may still have that fight to want to go back to what you've been loyal to. But when that thing that you've been loyal to isn't serving you, why will you continue to sabotage yourself to keep following that old method? So to my entrepreneurs, to my new business owners, to my aspiring business owners, I want you to tag along with me during this series as I touch through Profit First, this book by Michael. I think, again, I can't pronounce his last name. Don't judge me, but I think it will be an amazing journey for you all to really just pay attention to the concept and go get the book. If you want to tag along with me, if you know that I'm going to be doing this every day and I'm going to be touching on this for the next however many days I run the series, I want you to get the book. Get the book. Read a chapter before you know I drop a video. I drop a video every day. Read a book, get the book, read a chapter, come and watch this video, and then see what you want to be able to learn or what other questions you have, or like, let's talk about this thing. Let's do this together, because I want my business to be profitable. I want my business to have a high net worth. I want my business to have the same growth and the same spikes and the same diversification that my personal portfolio has. So I got to learn how to shift differently, because I've been technically a business owner since 2017, and I have not seen not 1 cent of profitability in my business. And with this conversation, my desire, my hope, my goal is to change that. And this concept of profit first, paying yourself first in your business, I truly believe is going to be something that will help introduce that shift, and not only introduce the shift, but be able to see tangible results with that. So I want you guys to tag along with me. Come back tomorrow. You guys know how I do when I go into this series thing. I'll be dropping these gems. So I want you to type in the comments, what is the one thing that you are interested in learning, what you look forward to, or maybe what was even the gem and the golden nugget that you got out of this section? Because we just covered the introduction to the book. So we're not even into the meat and potatoes yet. And again, like I said, I'm not going to dig too deep into it, but I'm definitely going to speak to each chapter in the book, what I've taken from it, what my revelations were. And I want to encourage you guys to pick up the book as well so that you can tag along and study along with me. All right, let's make this a collaborative effort. I want to remind you guys that your financial prosperity awaits you, and so does your financial sanity. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye. The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melone. The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melone. The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melone.